Hello, everybody. Your hostess of Slanesh, Celefaze here, and I have a gentleman who needs barely any introduction, a staple of both the SoCal and the worldwide Age of Sigmar scene. We have with us today Matt the NOOG Nguyen. Matt, how
What's
you doing
poppin',
today?
everybody? Doing good, doing good. Just doing a little this. Happy to be here. Happy to talk to one of my locals and good friends of mine. Trish here. So she's a great host. So yeah, like I said, happy to start talking. Yeah.
So, NOOG, what's new for you in AOS?
Right now I'm just literally experimenting with all these new books that have been coming out because I happen to own a lot of armies because there was a local in our community that sold a bunch of like 2,000, 3,000 point armies for like really cheap, like 4 or 5 years ago. And I was like, you know what? If he's selling it for that much, I'll hop on it. Maybe I'll play in the future while I'm not playing Beast of Chaos. And now, well, Beast of Chaos being gone, see, okay, I can try out all these armies now. And for me, I'm also preparing for for a little team tournament that I'm going to in Colorado with some locals in SoCal. So that's the other reason why I'm trying out all these new armies is that I can understand how that each one plays, so I can tell, I can lead my team to make a game plan of how to play against these armies, and you know, we might be playing some of them in our like little comp. So, yeah, that's been fun little prep that I've been doing. Right before the new GHB is coming up.
Excellent. Excellent. So we've got definitely some events coming up. You had just run a interesting event for sure in our local scene that was a 1 day GT. It was an Ironman GT. Probably one of the craziest things that I have ever been involved in as far as AOS goes. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us what it's like running a 1 day GT.
Yeah, honestly, it was kind of like last minute. When I say last minute, to me is like for hosting a event, it's like 2 months ago, everybody was saying, "Hey, Nude, you should host like a 1 day GT locally." Like they've been saying it to me for like the past few years now, and one day I was like, you know what? If people are gonna sign up for it, you know, let's try it and see how it goes. Because I think in SoCal we a lot of our community like actively go to like the local events around here. So I was thinking, okay, if I can get about like 20 people, I can make this like a fun event. So I hosted it, and then we managed to get 24 sign-ups, which is like a lot more than I expected for a 1 day GT. And honestly, it's about I've hosted a lot of 2 day events too. It's about the same as hosting a 1 day event, except all of it is crammed in 1 day. But then it turned out to be successful. People enjoyed it, and honestly, even though this is going to be a hot take, I actually really enjoyed starting early. I know you're not a morning person, Trish, but having the event start at 8 was like thought was like, oh, okay. So imagine if most days started at like 8 or 9, and then with 3 rounds we could be out by like 7, which is like a good thing. And then I remember because during that 1 day GT, it was like 4 or 5. It was like 4 or 5 o'clock, and we got 3 rounds done. And I'm like, oh, okay, so we just need to do 2 more. And then you and everybody else attending that event powered through, and it ended up being a success. I thought everyone was really happy about the prizes that I did. Shout outs to Brian Cox in Asia for printing me some of those trophies, and then there was other prizes too that I gathered at the event. And I think also a 1 day GT is like a good. It's not only a good test for like myself as a TO to see how it would work out. It was a good test for the community to see, okay, how fast can we play our games, and then I think it allowed people to focus on that. And I think what surprised me was that people didn't really feel tired. I didn't really see it until game 4 or game 5. So props to everyone for doing the endurance test. And as someone that used to go to a lot of music festivals back in the day, that's what it felt like to me. Just like, okay, starting at 8 a.m., we partied all the way from like 8 a.m. to like midnight. And it's like, okay, that's day 1 of a festival. So that's what it honestly like felt like. So yeah.
So it was basically like the Coachella Day One of AOS.
Yes, that's honestly the best way to put it.
Amazing. It's certainly like I I have been to a couple of music festivals in my time, and it's funny that you say that actually because it did have some amount of like that energy to it. But it was also small. It was a bunch of people who all knew each other throwing down, and it was pretty rad from the attendees' perspective, from my side. So that leads me into another topic. You've been a TO for a while. Is ultimately your goal to bring yourself to the height of being a player or the height of being a TO, or to find a balance? Because in our scene, we've had people who have gone one way or another, almost to the exclusion of the other. Where do you see your priorities laying with that as time goes on?
So originally, I decided to be a TO because before Tomo, like old man, or as we call him, Old Man Tom, stopped TOing local RTTs. He was doing a lot of the local RTTs in our little area of Orange County in Southern California, and I felt bad for him because, like, you know what, I was like, even though he TOs all the time, which I know he likes, it'd be nice for him to play. So I was like, you know what, why don't I just try this TOing thing? It doesn't seem too hard. And then after, like, I remember honestly for me, hosting the event isn't hard. Preparing for it is the hardest part. Because as soon as like everyone gets there on the day of, we set up all the maps and everything, then the day usually goes by pretty easy. Sometimes I have to make rulings and callings. That's the hard part for some people, but for me, that's not the hard part. That's easy to figure out. Okay, if I need to make a decision, I'll just make a decision. For me, it's all the prep and the time that it takes. What makes TOing like hard, but I actually do really enjoy it because while I do enjoy playing a lot, which I do a good amount of, being a player, you only get to see your games. When you're a TO, you get to see every game. You get to see every story that's happening on every table. And it's a really cool experience. You get to see like not only like your friends, but like new people, like enter the scene and like try to have fun games with everybody. Like what's crazy to me is at this one day GT, almost half the people that signed up were new people. And if you remember Trish, their first GT was Palm Springs Open, which is an 8-round event hosted by Games Workshop in Palm Springs. So their first event was an 8-round event. Then their second event was a one-day GT. So it's always fun seeing like the passion of like these. Every year we get like new people join the scene, and it's just fantastic to see. When it comes to choosing, I don't think I have to choose. Like I actively enjoy both playing and TOing. I enjoy playing a little more still, but thankfully we have a good amount of TOs in our community. They're always down to like host events, so so no one's like a permanent TO forever. All the TOs around here have a chance to like play at each other's events, and it's a good time. And while being a player is my priority focus, just to get better at the game, to try things out and everything, and to do well at events, I think for me, TOing is still super fun. Like, I think what I aspire to as a TO is to just host, like, my big small town throwdowns between like 40 to 50 people, or my one day events, or just hosting like, fun, whether it's like chill RTTs is like, let's say 14 to 16 people, or our big RTTs. Like we had one this past Sunday, which was like 24 people, and I only post the event for like a day, and everything's filled up. So yeah, like I said, it's even though they're kind of different things, they're all a part of like this hobby that we do, and that's why I really enjoy it. I really enjoy seeing people like be really happy when like maybe they've been practicing for a long time or they were new, and then suddenly, oh wow, I did really well and I get this event. Or like some of the new people, maybe they're not winning all their games, but they're still showing good spirit or great hobby, and they get awards for it too, and I get to see their reactions. So I think that's part of the reason why I'll keep TOing, because one, it's to help the community, it's to make our community keep growing bigger, because without TOs. A lot of this just doesn't happen, and I always see myself as, I became a TO because I want to honor like all the other tournament organizers that decide to, instead of play the game, they decide to, like, they're going to host for everybody else. So that does require sacrifice, but I guess the upside is I'm single right now, so I can balance my time between playing and TOing when necessary. But jokes aside, but yeah, that's my take on playing and TOing. That's
Ladies, take note of that. So, speaking of new players and first GTs and all of that, explain for the audience a little bit of how you first got into AOS. Like, what was your major introduction to the game, and where did that take you?
funny. It's funny that you asked me this question, Trish, is because I know you definitely know this story because you've heard it so many times, but not everybody does. Honestly, what got me, okay, there's two reasons that got me to AOS. One was Total War Warhammer, which is based in Warhammer Fantasy, or the old world. So I was playing a lot of Beastmen in that game, and I was like, oh hey, you know what? Playing this on the tabletop might actually seem like a fun idea. That was one reason why I got in. The second reason was I was living abroad for a little bit or a while, and then I, was in a long-term relationship. Things didn't work out. Came back home after living abroad for a while, and I was really depressed. And I was like, and my therapist was like, "Hey, let's maybe you should like find a hobby to get into." And I'm just like, "Okay, yeah, maybe you're right." And then I walk into a Warhammer store during my lunch break, and the rest is history. That's how I got into this game. And this is gonna sound really cheesy, but I feel comfortable telling everybody this now. I never thought that, like, after that failed relationship, I was gonna be happy ever again. And then ever since getting into AOS back in 2019, and then meeting like the entire like SoCal community, it's nice to be in a better place. And don't. I mean, I've been in a better place for like a while already. So, but yeah, it's nice to like have. It's nice to have like all these experiences, which is a good lesson. Try not to like as best as you can, try not to dwell on the past because there are better things, coming in the future. And well, I found this. I made friends like, made good friends like you, Trish, and many others. So yeah, that's how I kind of like got into this hobby. Even though I know a lot of other people have been in this hobby since like they were kids, like 20 years ago, and I guess to me, I've even though 7 years is still a long time to be in this hobby, I still consider myself kind of a rookie compared to some of the veterans that have been in tabletop for a while.
It's kind of interesting that there is this idea of wargaming as, being a hobby for a bunch of antisocial nerds, effectively. Like, you look at the stereotype, I mean, especially for, like, let's be real, 40K has its stereotypes, and Warhammer as a whole kind of suffers from that to a certain degree. But
I
it
think there's
sounds,
tabletop games in general. Yeah, I mean like
yeah.
Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, and all of that.
I mean,
But yeah, sorry, go on.
yeah, we're not here because we're out there, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But do you find that the social aspect of wargaming is more core to the experience than some people might assume?
I think when you think about like Warhammer in general, it's not just like it's the social experience is a part of it. That for me, that's a huge part of like why I like have been with this game for a long time. But for some other people that are maybe less social, maybe it's like the painting is a huge like part of the aspect of the hobby for them, or it's like the lore of the setting, whether it's like 40K, old world, or AOS, or like maybe they just really enjoy playing like the game with just a few friends, not like going to like big tournaments. Like, so, I mean, I think Warhammer is what makes it unique is that it's just a lot of things to people, and I think that's why it's always been like, or it's become more successful ever since like COVID is my understanding of it. And to Games Workshop's credit, at least I don't know about for their other games, but at least for the Age of Sigmar side, what's nice is that the balance team has been listening to like the community more and more. And for example, they send out these like questionnaires or emails to people that have gone to like Warhammer World, or not Warhammer World, the World Championships of Warhammer Atlanta, and they send monthly feedback on the game. So getting to participate in that is a really cool experience. And I think because the designers for AOS like want to really get involved with the community, as you know, I mean, I believe you were there too when we were talking to some of them at Palm Springs Open, like Matt Rose, the head balance of design. It's cool that like they're choosing to be an active part of like the community and the game, which I think is better for like everybody as a whole.
Yeah, you know, it was really surreal to have that sort of access at an event to the guy who's actually designing the game. Like, he was TOing there with us. You could walk over and be like, hey, person who actually had an active hand in almost all of these rules being written, what was the intent of this rule? Is that how this should be working? Like, what's your literal, like, the most official ruling in this moment? It was like there was nothing else like it as far as tournaments I've attended. Just having that immediate access and it not being an exclusive thing or anything. Like anyone attending there could talk to Matt, get a judge ruling from him if they needed. It was they are so hands-on with this game in a way that I have seldom seen from other developers.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'm not sure what entirely prompted the change. Maybe it was Tomo, maybe it was somebody else, but like it's nice to have them be like have an active involvement in our community game. And if you ever got a chance to hang out with him at PSO, he was really fun to drink with when he was just hanging out the bars with everybody. So I thought that was like really like you know what, Matt Rose, you didn't have to do this. I know make people make fun of him a lot, but like I think he tries his stand-up dude. It's not, I don't know the company's politics or like policies. I imagine it's not an easy job, even though we always kind of think of our head, oh, you could probably just write this FAQ in like an afternoon and just like submit it, instead of just waiting like a month. But, you know, every job comes with its like trials and tribulations sort of deal.
Absolutely. So, I see that jersey. I know what that jersey is.
Should I
How?
show everybody?
Show him.
All right, well, this is why I'm repping out Age of Ligmar. This is one of our local club teams. It's our little brand, and our favorite question that we always hope people ask us is, "What's Ligmar?" I'll tell you what it means in person if anybody asks me. But yeah,
Ominous for sure. So tell us actually a little bit of the lore, what you can, of the genesis of Ligmar. Tell people what what is it that makes Ligmar stand out? How did it even come to be?
so it came to be about in 2021 at the time when some I guess some you know these faces like Shane, Max, Josh, and then some Randy and some others. They just joined the game, and then I started playing a lot with them at Comic Quest, and I really got along with them. And then one of the guys named Zach, we were all trying to think of a team name, and he goes, "Well, why don't we just do Age of Ligmar?" And we were like, "That's brilliant, that's brilliant." So it stuck, and then they did this little show the jersey again. This is originally what's it called, the comet from Sigmar, and then he just literally photoshopped a second comet next to each other, and well, that, that's how we got our name and like the logo, and then we didn't really start wearing jerseys or anything. It took Ligmar is a lawless land, as you know, so it took a long time for people to coordinate and agree on the same like attire jersey to wear. So last year I was just kind of like, fuck it, nobody can like decide. I'll just like make a Ligmar jersey off of like a Wayo, which is like you can make two custom jerseys, and then this is what we this is what we've repped out. This is the swag, and even even though like Ligmar, how I describe the team, it's a mix. I guess the best way to describe it is like it's a lifestyle. That's what I always like to say. Ligmar is a lifestyle. Some of us like besides like playing the game or competing in it, we also like hanging out in real life together, or playing video games together, like League of Legends, World of Warcraft, and other games right now. I know some of the guys and gals right now playing Valheim. And our Discord used to be just Ligmar, but now we've like opened up to a lot of like the homies in SoCal, like Trish here and like Elias, that some of you guys know, and many others that get to enjoy join the secret society, and they get to see how lawless we are. So, yeah, I mean that's the history of the team. I mean, besides that, in the region, like even though it's not any like recent success, except last year when Eugene won a GT, some of us have like we've done very well as like a team, as we won some GTs, won some like RTTs. We repped out in the Team California. So, even though TSD and Silence like to make fun of us that we're a meme team, we're so solid. We're up there. We just like to be subtle, you know. Even though our jerseys suggest otherwise, but yeah, that's like the history of the team. People have always like tried to like recruit me out of Ligmar or something, and I'm just like, even though like I flirt with like other teams like occasionally, even though it's like to me they're like side pieces, like Corsairs or Harambe's, as like little jokes. I'm Ligmar for life. This is the only one for me.
Excellent. You know, something I think that is a necessary primer for some people is that we have a culture in the SoCal meta of having a ton of small teams. And where that originates is we used to have one overarching team that was like a confederation of teams called SCal United.
Not
And
SoCal, but SCal.
SCal, we were scallions, bro. And eventually, SCal, as as all great empires, eventually came to an end. And now we see all of these sub teams that were really just more of branding at the start really start to flourish and come into their own. And something that I definitely need to credit you with is being a social force for the social cohesion of the region. If there's somebody that I would describe as the organizer on a systemic level for SoCal, it would definitely be Tom. But if I had to say there was a social driving force for the SoCal region, it would have to be you.
Yeah, I don't think I was ever like elected to that like position. It just kind of, I know like Tomo likes to joke that, oh yeah, this is what I have you for. But like I don't know, it's always what I've like doing. I've always liked, being a part of a big community. I like introducing people into it. Like back during like, for example, my sports days, like when I was doing rowing, or when I did football, or not, also this is not sports related, but even like choir, I was always used to being like the social organizer, like hey, let's hang out, let's like do this. It's always like something I always liked doing. I never like thought of it as like a job to me. I just enjoyed doing it. So naturally, because of like what I did before, and like other, also I do it at like work too, and like other things. So naturally, for my hobby, I think that's why everyone jokes locally that I'm the soccer mom, because I do act like a soccer mom. Like for example, sometimes when we travel to out of state GTs like Arizona, we take a our vehicle called, like, we like to call it the NOOG van, and we all just go in a big van together where we fit like 7 to 8 people, and then we stay at a big Airbnb. We go out partying. It's a fun time because, like, I mean, like we were saying earlier, this is not just like a game. This is just like our, little social circle. We've had to make a lot of like fun memories over the past 6 7 years, especially when we go to like places like Las Vegas for LVO. And then I also like introducing like new teams to the scene, because I remember back in the day, not to go into it too much, but the SoCal scene, was not as friendly. I mean, for me it was fine, but like it was not as friendly or like welcoming because we just had a lot of interesting characters back in the day. Trish knows what I'm talking about, to put it that way. But that's a story for another time. But now, now that like all those bad actors are out of the scene, now we have like, for, everyone's like, I get along with like everybody. I like introducing new people. Like in the past like few years, for example, I remember when the last Scions were new, and then I started like inviting them out to like our social like hangouts, and yeah, now they're like a core team. And then the other two that I'm thinking about now, more recently, like for example, last year, the Lava Boys, like they weren't they were new to everything, but now like ever since I started playing games with them a lot at Squad Marks, and then now they've like adapted to like the community, and they're another core part of SoCal, and then a new team that's coming up recently. They like to call themselves a very competitive team, made up of like I'm I'm not gonna pronounce this right, but she goes by Virial, or yeah, Virial. She's a big content creator. Has a huge Instagram page, and she brought in like her good friends and hobbyists and people that play the game with her into her scene, and it's been a great experience meeting them at like Palm Springs Open, and then I try to like invite them to like come to our like our events and then our discords, and even though they're still new, I can already see that they're getting more comfortable over time, and I really enjoy like growing the SoCal family to be bigger and bigger, and to be inclusive as like you know as much as we can. Because even though I know everyone, for example, isn't as social as I am, but it's nice that like whenever we like play locally after like a long week, we everyone smiles and everyone's glad to see each other. So I really live for that. So yeah,
That really is the unique energy of the SoCal meta. Like, it doesn't feel as much like a competitive scene as much as it feels like a family that it gets really intense at board game night. like
yeah,
we're all like, we may not all be like friends, like very like close friends, but we're all much closer than you would expect from a competitive scene. Like, we all have each other's backs, really, at the end of the day. And it's really good to see that in the scene. And I am very excited to see where it goes, especially with those new teams, like Virial's team, very competitive team,
yeah,
which they are, they actually are very competitive, especially in the painting meta. They are heavy hitters for the painting meta between Virial and Nora, and even Rudy. They are all very, very amazing painters, and SoCal is just rich with amazing artists and great competitors.
yeah. Like I remember that Palm Springs Open. I remember seeing Nora win like best army theme, and like Virial winning like best painted at like the very first event ever. And they put a lot of work into like painting their armies and getting it to like a really high quality hobby standard. And it was really awesome. Like even though like I was still getting to like know them, and I'm still getting to know them now, it was really awesome being like, hey, you know what? Those people are from SoCal. Like it's awesome to like see them be happy and like win for these things. And like I said, not only do we have like a lot of like solid competition when it comes to playing the game, we have a lot of like hobby competition too. Like it's really like with some of like the teams around here, like the Chupacabras, or like some people from like TSD, like Matt Abbott and Nick Garcia, and like many other like different hobbyists that we have in the area. It's just like damn. That's why we have this little we in our SoCal Discord, we have this little hobby tag called Hobby Champion, and I give it out every like because I'm a moderator in there, but I give it out every now and then just to like show people, hey, you know what? If you ever need hobby advice, just tag a hobby champion, just and you can ask them for like anything. So, yeah,
Yeah, we have an amazing concentration of talent and skill in that regard. And Like, and I'm glad because like, my ass bringing a 3 color minimum that I painted the night before. Like we need less of that and more of what they bring.
Yes.
Um,
Don't we all? Yeah.
oh yeah. So that, miniatures and the SoCal meta, you are known for being the guy with 1,000 armies, which helps the scene very much, helping people to, if they want to try out something competitively. You've helped a lot of people locally to have the means to do that.
Or even when they want to bring something like fun. For example,
Like a
we
meme
have like a
list.
friend of ours named Ben Boardman who wanted to run like a lot of Doom wheels, and he's like, "Hey, can I borrow a Doom wheel?" I'm like, "Sure." So I let him borrow a Doom wheel, and then he got to like, you know, live out his fun. And I think that's why it's like, I know there's like in some places I can't name those. I don't know which those places are, but I know some people feel iffy about Barhammer. For me, it doesn't matter to me because it's just like, yeah, like does it give like access to like resources maybe people wouldn't normally have financially? Sure, but like I don't think we should limit people by that. If people want to borrow something to try it, go for it. I think it's because for me, I think of the community as a whole. That's why I'm always happy to let people like borrow because I'm just like, you know what, these are like a lot of these people are my friends. A lot of these people maybe they're not my friends yet, but I want them to like have an easier time to play if they need to borrow something. So I'm always happy to like make it happen because it's like it's not a big deal, and it's always more fun watching people like play with toys that they want to have on the table rather than having to like, oh, maybe I can't try this cool idea that I had in mind.
And it definitely helps the meta for sure. Like I've borrowed miniatures from you. Like some of my nonsense is entirely the result of your generosity in that regard.
Oh yes, I mean sometimes I'm given like stuff like extra stuff I've owned for like free. Like I remember like when they squatted like some of the older Stormcast Paladin stuff or like Sacrosanct, I gave like a lot of that to you actually because I was like, you know what, like you've played Slanesh for a long time, maybe you're just waiting for a new book. Try Stormcast, and she's been now like you're the top Stormcast player in the world at the moment, and like you've done very well with that army, and you've
I've
had a lot of
fallen
fun
from
because
that throne, actually.
hey, you're still up there. It's not easy because it is the most popular army in the game. But yeah, like I said, because like I decided like, you know what, I'm not gonna like I have all these extra stuff. I'm not gonna touch it anytime soon. I'd rather just give it to like a homie for free, and then it's now it's cool that like because of that like you've done really well with those like toys, Trish. So yeah, like I said, it's not a big deal to me.
Well, thank you. Now, that does lead me into a bit of a segue into competitive play. Do you find personally for yourself that having all these armies, having the ability to go from army to army and have that broad repertoire, has that helped you as a competitive player? And would you recommend that route for other people?
In terms of recommending, I mean, it really just comes down to like, I mean, again, I lucked out because we had a local that sold like 2,000 to 3,000 points of an army for like $200. When does that actually happen most of the time? Like, it takes, I love deals. I mean, that's just who I am as a person. Like, I'm a complete goblin when it comes to like deals. I did the same thing when I was really into like clothes or like other hobbies that I did, and now it's like okay, I do the same for like Warhammer. So if you want to be like, I think honestly, instead of just like owning like a lot of stuff, my recommendation is like you find free resources. Like for example, I'm gonna shout them out. Sigdex. I think reading the rules for something is more like impactful than like owning the actual like model because for example, you can always proxy or you can always borrow whenever you need to. Like depending on where you're at, you probably if you're playing Age of Sigmar in like a decent scene, you probably just borrow what you need to just to try things out. But does it help? Yes. Like, let's say, for example, I was helping the California team prepare the past 2 years, and I let them borrow models that they needed to, and they've done well because of that. Or I let them out to friends, like, for example, Alec Jerome, and he's done really well because of that. And also for me, because I own a lot of these like armies and things like that, it's like whatever like so let's say something like let's say X army is becoming like really good all of a sudden. Okay, so I look at my collection and be like, okay, how do I play versus these things? So I use these models that like I have, like let's say ogres for example. I play as them and I play versus a friend of mine at like a squad marks like game night. And whenever I win or lose with them, I learn a lot from it because it's like okay, if I understand how these models play, and yes, could I try these models on TTS? Sure, I could, but I feel like having like feeling the physical model and just doing all the movements yourself like has helped me become like a better player into understanding okay, how do I fight this army, and and how do I deal with it. And then what was the first part of your question again? Sorry, I was thinking a lot about the second part. What was
No, I think you touched upon a lot of that. It was if you felt that playing that many armies and having the access to play that number of armies helped you as a competitive player.
I will definitely say after even though I owned these armies for a long time, I was still playing Beast of Chaos because that was just the army I had the most fun with. Like, yes, I would occasionally flirt like with the other armies or play with them, but Beast of Chaos was always my main. And then I always told myself, okay, at some point I need to try out the other armies that I have. And then after they squatted Beast of Chaos, I was like, you know what? Let's finally put that to the test. So last year I was playing in a lot of events with like mostly Crow Boys, but I was putting out 4-1s with like OBR and like Giants, and just to expand my natural like skill set of playing at the game. And it definitely not only did it help me a lot, it also because I enjoy doing like team events, whether it's on TTS or in person. I really like the pairings aspect of teams, and if I like know what a lot of these armies do, it helps me like pair better because usually in these teams like I've been like the guy that has like been in charge of pairings. So and that's a really enjoyable process for me. Pairings it's a totally different game than Age of Sigmar itself because you're trying to in a team format, you know, to keep it a little short, it's a team format. It's 8 people. It's whatever. It's like 5 people versus 5 people or 8 people versus 8 people. You're trying to guarantee the best matchups possible for whoever on your team because you're trying to get the most points, which is very different than playing singles. But I guess that's the collection I have lets me prepare better for singles and teams events. Because sometimes it's like it also helps me like read like the local meta because it's like okay, let's say something is doing really well right now. How do I like counter it? So I just look at like my collection or like I just look at the sig decks, the rules, and start cooking and figuring out okay how do I play versus it. And it's a very fun challenge for me. So yeah, it definitely. While I will say yes, it is an advantage. I don't I don't think somebody has to own that as much as I do to get better at the game because they could just use the resources out there whenever, like I said, it's just TTS, or they could just borrow some stuff from their friends if they
Yeah,
need to.
I'm a huge proponent of try before you buy when it comes to Warhammer. By whatever means, whether it's proxying on the tabletop or TTS, both are really good for a cost conscious person. And I'm also like a bargain hound, like personally. Like I think in the interview that we both had with Coach, I think we touched upon the joy of the FLG shop, and I
Yes,
think they've diminished their value a little bit. Like I think they're on to us at this point a little bit.
they definitely are. They
But it's those kind of bargains. Like if you are somebody who wants to get into this hobby but is intimidated by the price to the price to get in, watch for those deals. There are a number of ways, like secondhand is the biggest, but there are other things like the Hachette Stormbringer. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation on
no, I think you said it right.
Hachette. Is that it? They recently, I picked up personally, maybe betraying what I'm planning for the future, but I managed to get a perhaps reasonable amount of Stormdrake guards from their recent issues. So, might be hitting a table near you.
That's exciting.
Oh, yeah.
Can't wait to play it.
But those are just other options. And, like, depending on your TO and your region's rules, 3D printing is an option as well. I can't recommend that, like, universally because you never know. Like, there are the GW. I personally enjoy the GW official events, so I will try and keep my collection as GW friendly as I can for the things that I'm going to play regularly. But, sometimes it's fun to dabble with a really themed army, and, if you don't want to take it to places where it might not be welcome. But, yeah, just keep an eye out for things, and there are many ways to get into this hobby for so many people, and I love seeing more people have access in whatever way
Yeah, whenever
possible.
it's like, honestly, I mean, now that I know what I know, if I had to, like, if somebody gets into the hobby and they're just looking for, like, an army, there's plenty of deals that you could find on, like, Discord, Facebook, like, Marketplace, or, like, eBay, or, like, Miniswap on Reddit. Like, it's, depending on what army you're looking for, the resources are out there to get, like, an army for, like, a really good deal. Because even though, you know, if you can afford like buying straight from GW, like, or sure, go for it. But if you can't, then I highly recommend buying lots that are already built and like maybe painted a little bit if you're scared to paint, and just like go for it and just like play. That's my personal recommendation. That's
Just play games. That leads me into another topic I'd like to touch on. For your growth as a competitive player, was there something that you found more useful than anything else as far as going from someone just getting in to where you are now as one of the top players, if not in the country or the world, honestly, at this point? Was there
I don't I
something that was your eureka moment?
definitely the Eureka moment I will say was my very first 4-1 at LVO back in 2022 or 2021. Yeah, very first LVO. I was losing a lot of Beasts of Chaos, but I still had a lot of fun with them. But I was slowly getting better with that army because at the time, during beginning of end of second edition, beginning of third edition, before they got a lot of buffs, it was the worst army in the game. But I think when you play armies like that, like we play some like armies or something, anything that has like a low power level, it helps you get better as a player because it helps you like learn how to like use what little resources you have and to like try to make the best out of them. And when I bring up like my past experience of like that felt like the eureka moment because I was like, for example, I was like losing against like there's a local named Pablo and he was playing Iron Jaws where they're moving 36 inches across the whole table, and that was just running me over most of my games. But something finally clicked, and then I just knew how to play. I just learned how to play around these armies, and then that's when I feel like when I realized that, or after I got the 4-1, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm better at this game than I thought, and I just have to lose a lot to make that happen, and which is why, honestly, for me, losing has never bothered me. I've always, because I've like done a lot of competitions in my life through sports, choir, or like now Warhammer or anything else. You have to like lose a lot to like know how to like win, and even though that process can be discouraging for some people, um, but then you still learn and like you'll get better. Hell, even though like I have a lot more experience now than I did, sometimes like even like the best players will still go like randomly like 3-2 or like whatever or like 1-2 at like an RTT because they're just testing things, they're trying things, like it just happens. Like it I don't just because you like do badly at one event or RTT, it doesn't mean anything. Like I think I remember when I was talking to like some top players from like Team America, like Matt Beasley and Gavin, and I kind of asked them like, do you feel like you've hit your like ceiling already competitively? And those players are like really successful, and they've won like a AOS Worlds last year in Europe, and they said that like they feel like they never hit their like skill ceiling. They always feel like they can get better, which is like crazy hearing from those guys because like you know because they win a lot, I always thought that, oh, do you feel like they just peaked? I'm like, no. They even said themselves no. They always feel like there's something to learn about this game, especially because it changes so much. So I feel like because I always have this willingness to like learn and to like win or lose, like regardless of me winning or losing, I always learn to have a good. I learn to enjoy like the learning process. That's how I've become like I guess decent at the game, and and also this game really because they have we get a lot of like active balance updates for a tabletop game. It encourage the tape this game encourages you to be as flexible as you can because let's say oh your the army that you're playing that used to be really good sometimes now they become like an average or like maybe weaker army and you just have to learn how to like play around that and then it's a long I'm not gonna lie it's a long process. It's not like it's not a straight path. You just have to like keep playing, keep enjoying the process, try new things, and then you know you'll get better from there. And like the biggest advice that I always give to people, especially when they're new, and I still give this same advice to people now, you should always play. Um, you should always think about the game and not include like dice or averages. Like we have this local joke around here that goes like my averages because I hit on twos and twos and Ren 3, but I missed them all. Like it should have happened. Well, sometimes it can happen. So sometimes you just have to learn how to like best play around those scenarios because you can't control dice, but you can control everything else, like how you move, how you like deploy, how you like do your sequence for like spell casting, and like how you like handle your combat activations, and like how you plan out your tactics. That's none of that is dice related. That's just you playing, and that's always the biggest advice I give to people about how to get better. Like I'll never forget. Like recently, there's this player that like used to think about averages a lot, and now he stopped thinking about averages as much. He actually like listened to this advice of like, oh yeah, just do everything you can to just minimize the impact of dice in the game, and he almost won my 1 day GT. He tied versus Alec, and I was not like, oh wow, like he's gotten so much better than he was last year. So it's really cool like seeing like people navigate that same like process of getting better at the game like I did like 6 years ago. So yeah.
Yeah, like you were mentioning there, actually, the Llama Boys, their leader, Chris, the one who went up against Alec, or AJ as we know him, he has grown significantly. And a lot of that has to do with training with intention, but also seeking out people who are better at the game and getting their insights, understanding what it is that they're doing wrong, where they could be better. And it comes from a little bit of discarding that ego of like, I am secretly better than anyone else. My method just hasn't had its moment to shine.
Yeah, it's
That's
the anime protagonist
it,
like thinking.
exactly. A lot of people have that idea, and that's where I think a lot of frustration comes from, where it's like, but I'm the main character. Why didn't I win? It's like, well, first off, you're not. And second off, you know, if you didn't win, reevaluate and like you said, be willing to lose. And I think a willingness to lose, like we've had 5-0 players randomly spoon out. And what I mean by spoon out is being literally at the bottom of the placings. And sometimes that happens. Like we are playing a dice game, yes, but sometimes the meta shifts, whether it's new people with new ideas and new play styles that you might not be used to, or a balance shift that you haven't adjusted to yet, or even just random chance. Like sometimes these things will happen. And as you touched upon, I think it's very important for people who are still trying to find their bearings to find a comfort and a peace with the idea that every loss is a learning opportunity. And I think we all need to remember that, even those of us who are doing well competitively or have been doing well competitively, and remember that it's a journey and there is no destination. Like, nobody becomes the final boss of Age of Sigmar. We all have the same resources. We are all playing the same game.
Well spoken, Trish.
Thank you. Thank you. So as we come to the end here, was there anything that you'd like to touch upon? Anything that you are working on, that you are excited about, that's coming up in the game?
I mean, I think we're all excited for this new GHB coming up. Okay, so this could be a hot take on your podcast. I know you and others are not the biggest fans of this GHB. I have actually really enjoyed this GHB, and even though, like, yeah, am I ready for new missions and I'm ready for everything? Yeah, of course, because it's we've been playing this for like a year. But I will say that, like, I enjoyed them, trying to do something different with how tactics did. I actually really enjoyed like a lot of the missions for the most part. And Soggy, I think, has been like a overall success in my opinion. So yeah, I think that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to going to some, like, the big team event I mentioned that I'm going to with Colorado, with some of the local SoCal people, like three more of us, and then we have some GTs coming up. Like, for example, we actually have another 1-day GT coming up next month, hosted by Chris Hernandez. Like, we went from 24 maxed out for my event, and because he literally felt so much FOMO that he was like, you know what, I'm going to host my own 1-day JT. Now there's 36 people signed up, and there's other people flying in from out of like state or SoCal just to play at this 1-day GT. And I'm just like, wow, I can't believe like this crazy ass idea is catching on. Like, I guess we're all psychopaths. And then also another, besides, like, of course, Old Town Throwdown, people should go to that. In August, we actually have a Palm Springs event hosted by one of our other TOs, Noe, this July. I had a fun time last year. It was a good vibe. And so I already got my ticket. I just need to book my hotel. So, that's what I also recommend. And yeah, and, if you're a local watching this video, you should come to all of our RTTs every month, or, whichever events you can. And also, little shout out, we usually have a Friday night Squad Marks, which is located in Garden Grove or Cypress. I think Cypress is the right city. Where we just play like games, and hit me up. You're always feel free to DM me. I guess I know you were asking me about like my socials earlier, but I guess my Discord social is NOOG or like Roscoon if you like want to find me and just DM me, or just like message me on like the AOS Coach Discord, and I'll like respond and get back to you. So yeah, thank you so much for doing this interview with me, Trish. I always love doing these, and I'm really like happy to be a part of your channel, and can't wait to see it grow, and can't wait. I'm like also honored to be the first person that you're interviewing for this. Maybe you did Elias before, I don't remember, but can't wait.
You get to be the new first.
Okay, sounds good. And then I can't wait for you to interview like others, maybe like Coach in the future, Tomo, and like many other like players. Oh, you know who I think you should totally interview? You should totally interview Natasha, or what's her face from Team Serbia. I think she's a really fun person. I think she'd be awesome to like interview. Should be.
I would love to interview Natasha. I've had the pleasure of speaking with her, and she is absolutely amazing. Once I've gone through and spotlighted some people, I'm definitely going to be exploring, looking outside of the region. Now, I do have somebody outside of the region already planned. However, he is honorary SoCal. So
okay, can't wait.
Yeah. I will be interviewing AOS Coach next. So look forward to that, and stay tuned.
That's hype. All right.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Oh, you know what? There was one last thing. One last thing I think everyone wants to know.
Yes.
Where'd your name come from? Why are you the Nooge?
The NOOG came from. So after I got my first 4-1 at LVO, which was, I guess, really impressive time with Beast of Chaos, um, there's another content creator who I've met in real life, and he's really fun to be around, Rob, or Honest Wargamer. He kept mispronouncing my last name because I guess there's not a lot of like wins where I guess he lives in Nottingham. And then the funny part is like a lot of people were like trying to correct him on stream, like how it's pronounced, but it just kind of stuck. And then everyone just started knowing me as like the Nuge, and and even after like that stream, people kept calling me that. I'm like, you know what? It's a fun nickname. There's a lot of Mats, but I'm the only Nuge. So yeah, I think that's where the nickname come from. It stuck. That's the name I use on all my jerseys and everything. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Nooge. You take care, and I will see you at the next event.
Yep.
The
See ya,
rest.
Trish.
See
And it was
ya.
good talking to everybody.
If you like what you saw, please be sure to give me a like, a subscribe. Anything helps the channel. There are links down below for how you can support more directly through my Ko-fi link and perhaps a Patreon. We'll see. But until next time, stay classy, AOS, and we'll
Yep.
see you later.
Peace out, people. It's good talking to everybody, and good talking to you, Trish.